around the capital improvement plan, the CMP, right? How do we drill that down for them? I think that that is definitely something that we should look into.
Commissioner Kenyatta, did you have a hand? No. All right. Did we get all of our board colleagues? Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Sorry, last quick question. Who determines from the state which schools are being assessed?
So what the state does is they go through a cycle of schools. And so it may be 15 schools one year. They'll send us a list of schools that they're going to assess, and they go through our portfolio. Scott, if you want to add.
And it's random, to be quite honest with you. So many times we don't know which ones they're going to pick. They've actually just changed that system recently as well. So a lot of times we'll get the notification of their coming to X school, and we'll just have, the 2 to 3 weeks to prepare. So at one time they gave a little bit more notice, but at this point in time, not the type of notice they gave before. But it's cyclical, so it's not specific.
Is it coming out of MSDE? Is it in with like state operations? Like where within government are the individuals doing this?
It just comes from the state as a whole.
Like who within the state?
So I can,
It's not that.
Yeah.
Actually, okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
Wait, Maureen.
That might
Oh.
be really stupid.
no. So the Interagency Committee on School Construction is the state entity that deals with funding for construction. So they oversee the maintenance, effectiveness of,
I see.
yes, the MEAs as well, in addition to overseeing like the capital programs, the healthy schools. So the IAC is the state arm that focuses on the buildings.
At some point, are these all the same entity within state government, or is this someplace else?
So MSA is a separate entity, though I think technically they're all in the same building right now. But so their MSA is a partner that we work with, and that was a state mandate to access the funds for 21st century learning and for Build to Learn. So think of them as more as a partner.
If that is what's setting and influencing our ability to ask for future dollars based on the need, where that number is coming from and what factors influence that number. Like they'd be.
So the Interagency of Public School Construction, the IAC, they do establish the funding amount for each LEA, for each local education agency. They do that, right? And one of the reasons why they do the assessment, which is it's a review of our maintenance effort, is to say, and give us a score to say whether we are appropriately maintaining. And so is that a conversation that is considered during their discussion about funding our projects? Yes, that utilization, all of those things are layered together during that discussion.
That's whole context. I'm sure there'll be more questions.
Thank you guys. Thank the entire team for your work presentation. Before you guys go anywhere, we're going to vote on these 2 items, but just want to acknowledge that Dr. Santelises has joined us. Welcome. And our vice chair has joined us as well. So we've got 2 more folks to add to the conversations this evening. Is there a motion to approve items 8.01, the capital improvement program, and 8.02, the FY26 comprehensive maintenance plan?
So moved.
I think I'll take Commissioner Coy as first and second for Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. I'm so sorry, Commissioner Mohammed. I correct the record. I can't hear when it's all coming in. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Ames Messenger? Thank you. Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Redding Lollinger?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott Woodruff?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
And I'm in favor. This motion passes for those 2 items. Thank you all for the presentation tonight. I appreciate it. We are now going to move on to items 8.03 and 8.04. We'll start with 8.03 for a presentation. This is the FY25 Q4 board budget amendment. I understand that Chief Doherty is going to present and Courtney Deserbay is going to join us as well. we appreciate. And Mary Ann Cox is going to join us at the table. For items 8.03, we're going to be providing, this is going to be a presentation. There'll be a summary of key points that will be pulled out for the board this evening, followed by questions by our board colleagues. Will that work for you, Courtney? Yeah, got it.
Thank you, Chair Sally. Am I coming through okay?
Perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Chris Doherty. I'm the Chief Financial Officer. First, let me explain and apologize. I was in the office today and actually at City Council with Courtney, and then I got sick and came home so that I wouldn't be contagious to my closest friends and colleagues.
You can always feel free to pass it to your colleagues. I know.
No, thank you. Thank you.
And when I mean
I
pass
think-
it, I
I don't
mean
think you meant-
pass the presentation, not.
No,
The infection. I thought I was a little confused.
I'm very happy to.
Levity this evening.
Thank you for the offer. I have a lot of ibuprofen in my system, and I think I'll be okay. Let me say about the FY25 Q4 budget amendment request, and also the companion piece of the supplemental appropriations, some words of overview that I hope will increase collective understanding. First, the presentation, especially re-reviewing it prior to tonight, is really driven by our year-end closing and our reporting to the Maryland State Department of Education. That is to say that there's a method to the madness of the slides that make a lot of sense to auditors and to accountants. I feel that as an informational vehicle, it does leave a lot to be desired. That is, sometimes with these formal things that we want to be able to say, our board approved, slides 5, 6, and 7. That's why we get into technical language and some otherwise not very snazzy presentation. So I'm going to try to pull out the most important bits of this presentation as you directed, Chair Sally. If you can go to the second slide, Arzu. So here, what this tries to say in plain English, before we get into some of the tables that are driven by MSDE and the auditors, is we're trying to do two main things here. First, we're bringing in supplemental money, supplemental appropriations that we got after the FY25 budget was approved and off and running. So we're formally bringing those revenues that we've received into the budget. The second thing we're doing is we're balancing the budget by category. And this is what gets into the state's requirements. The state requires that we or any LEA not spend more in any category than we have budgeted. That's a very good rule because otherwise, if we were to take this additional supplemental revenue, for example, of about $61 million and put it into some other category, just call it other for expediency, and then we overspend certain categories, that doesn't tell a clear story, and that's not what accounting is about. We want to make this as accurate as possible and as up to date as possible. So that means we bring in the $61 million and formally, and that $61 million, by the way, is made up of 4 different supplemental appropriations. The first one is reimbursement revenue that we received from FEMA 4, the last and final tranche of FEMA money, and the Emergency Connectivity Fund. And those break down to be $9.1 million from supplemental appropriate from FEMA 4 and $8.3 from the Emergency Connectivity Fund, which board members know and the public may know is a federal program from the Federal Communications Commission that helps us increase bandwidth, increase hotspots, reduce the digital divide. And the IT department and the finance department work hard to get that. And we got $8.3 million in reimbursed money there. The other category we got was higher than budgeted investment income. FY25 was the second best recent year, FY24 being the best. Those days are over. The days of the 5% T-bill are long gone. So we budgeted prudently at about $6 million in expected investment income, and we got about $37 million. So this is the process we use to formally bring in those revenues. Importantly, assign it to certain budget categories, because you can't just pour it in and say that's good enough. Our other income, the other $12.5 million, is a combination of reimbursements from the Maryland Stadium Authority and also some back and forth one-stop payments from MSDE. So you put all those supplemental appropriations together, you have $61 million. Where do we put it? Okay, Arzu, if you go to slide 5. Slide 5, as clumsy as it is in one respect, is actually the filet mignon of this presentation, because it is the summary for schools, both schools and central office, by category, which is the important category that MSDE needs it. And you see the $61,086,050. That's a roundup from the 51 cents, $49.51. From the revenue that came in. And so you see in that final column where we assigned those additional supplemental revenues so that we can report to MSDE that in no category did we overspend what we had budgeted. And that's what's important to them. So the other slides, they're a couple ways they're shown is to cut the same information by object, because the category explanations are sometimes not super straightforward. So we also show it by object, which is more meaningful, but it's still pretty darn bureaucratic. And then the others are part of that rebalancing effort where you bring in $61 million in new budget, and then you assign it to the places where it needs it. The net effect of this, of course, are books that balance and that tell the most accurate story. In this slide, you'll see that we do quarterly budget, we do quarterly amendments every quarter, but quarters 1, 2, and 3 are sometimes they don't change the overall number. They're just that a rebalancing. And quarter 4 is every year the biggest and most active quarter, because we're in the middle. We're actually not at the middle. We're quite near the end of finalizing our year-end audit. We know all the supplemental funds that have come in, and it's really kind of the final set of accounting and other compliance activities that allow us to declare the year completed and audited. So those are the two main things that this and the other presentation are trying to do, and also have us be able to say, if voted on in the affirmative, we can use the exact numbers and tables in our reports and with MSDE. So hopefully that's less opaque than perhaps the slides are without it. But I will finally say that's how it all balances. And not being able to see your faces, I'll stop there and see if there are any questions for me or my teammates in the room.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Chief Doherty. Let me turn over to Commissioner Coy, and then we'll get to Commissioner Mohammed.
Just one additional thing, if you could clarify, because I know this is on your mind as well. Any decreases, if you could just outline those decreases that exist there and the explanation for those.
Sure. The decreases, very good question, and I'll try to do two things. One is I'll briefly go away from the table to say in FY25, certain things occurred that are causing this type of rebalancing. And those are, very generally speaking, in FY25, we came to agreement with our BTU partners and friends for the FY25 and 26 contract. There was increases that had to be retroed to the beginning of the year. With a big union like that, the annual cost of a 3% increase is about $17 million. So that's part of these additional budget amounts. PSRP also came to agreement for FY25, and we did some other things. So that's some of where the spending took place. You see that in a net level, the column furthest to the right are where, from a budget point of view, certain places wound up getting their budgets trimmed. Now, this is just the net from the previously approved Q3 budget. So when you see the net 61 million, for example, Commissioner Coy, you see that's actually the difference between the FY25 Q3 approved budget and the next column over. So it really, you see that fringe benefits on a budgetary basis went down. You see that operation of plant on a budgetary basis went down, but that's a little bit misleading. And what I mean by that is take fringe benefits. Yes, the red is meant to draw the eye, and it shows that it's 4.3 million different in budget from Q3 to the final numbers. That said, we are spending more year over year on employee fringe benefits to the tune of 10 or 11 or 12% increases every year. So this just reflects a transfer of budget rather than a decrease in spending. And I think that's part of the clarity that we could improve. Now, we have to show it like this for our purposes, but I think we could do a better job of clarifying what's a change in budget and what's a change in actual spend.
Thank you so much. Let me go to Commissioner Mohammed, who had some very specific questions, and then we'll get
Appreciate
Commissioner
it.
Redding-Ollinger.
I'm going to start. I think you cleared some of my questions up, particularly around the entire 61 million. My questions there, I think, have been cleared for the most part. I will come back to that. Let me start here. There's a mid-level administration increase of, I believe, 15 million, but also an administration decrease of 7.5 million. I believe it's on slide 4. I know we haven't shown that this evening. Can you give some insight into what is the mid-level and the difference between the mid-level and the administration, and how are these related, and why is there a difference between the two? We're showing an increase in one place and a decrease in another.
Yes, I will try, and then if the people in the room think they can improve on it, by that I mean my colleagues Courtney and Marianne, then they should feel free to do so. Again, in these categories that are not super self-explanatory, mid-level admin is non-school based. So 0201 administration is folks at North Avenue who are not based at the school. Category 0202, mid-level administration, is the one I think you cited. That's school level administrators, principals, APs, and the like. And so the different numbers you see is a function of kind of the necessary moving around of budget between those categories, but one of them is North Avenue and one of them is school-based.
If I may, so excuse me, sorry, I might be catching already what Chris had. So the table on slide 5 shows essentially the summary of all the different activities. So it's a little bit different from what you see in slide 3 and 4, where we're referencing specific transactions. So in slide 4, where we're talking about the major category amendments, these were the amendments that we did specifically for rebalancing. So specifically for the purpose of rebalancing, which is the last of the transactions we did for the quarter, there's some elements where they might have increased or decreased, but that's separate from the total quarter summary that you see in the table on table 5, which is all the activity for the quarter. So mid-level for the quarter might have gone up, but in the category rebalancing specifically, we might have taken it down, if that makes sense. So the data that you're seeing on slide 4 is just specifically referencing the rebalancing, separate from what's in slide 5, which is the total sum of the transactions. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that helps. It gives purpose. I think what would be helpful is it being more descriptive?
Yes.
Because as we are looking at the budget, if it's not framed right for us, it stays ambiguous, and it leaves too much room for me. So
Understood.
I would appreciate it. Let me go from there to under slide 3 and 4. And I think I have it, but I just want to be sure.
Yep.
There's supplemental appropriations in that construction increase of 40 million, 40.6, which sounds great. But then I look under the category of rebalancing, there's an instruction decrease of 16.5. Is that the same thing going on there? And can, anytime I see a 16.5 in a decrease, when it comes to instruction, it just really stands out. So if you
Yeah.
could speak towards that.
Yes. So again, the same thing. So slide 3 is referencing how the 61 million was distributed. Slide 4 is the rebalancing. And again, slide 5 is the summary of all the different actions. So if you want to see what the actual difference was, you're going to look at slide 5. So you'll see there where instruction was actually increased by $25.8 million, which is the sum of all the other activities for the quarter.
So if we adopt the budget, this budget amendment as proposed, would we be agreeing to where the increases would then live in the budget moving forward? Because there are some areas of increase. Are we agreeing to where those dollars live in the budget moving forward by agreeing to this seat?
You're agreeing to the movement of the funds within the categories for the budget. So it's moving funds from specific budget categories to other budget categories. Again, as Chief Doherty mentioned, it in no way relates to the actual spending. So like we mentioned with Fringe, like where the actuals are, this is not changing any of those actuals. It's just making sure that when we reconcile our budgets and our actuals, in no individual MSD category do the expenses exceed budget. We just want to make sure that in every single category to meet MSD requirements, the budget has at least what's required for our expenses.
And one note I'll just add is this is also looking back.
Yes,
This is not a forward-facing budget.
correct.
Uh,
This is for fiscal year 25, which ended in June. Yes.
MSDE Finance Manual. And in that manual, it tells us exactly the type of expenditures that go into each one of the categories. So like surprisingly, category 0201, which generally might be a central office kind of thing, but it includes all of our IT costs, all of our legal costs, all of our HR costs, but it's all in accordance with the MSDE instructions in the finance manual.
No, I appreciate it, and I'm gonna pass it to
I'll take it
fellow
from here.
commissioners, but I'll say that the what's gonna be really helpful moving forward is the description so that it's easy for us to understand when there are line items called other, and it's $12 million in a line item called other. It's just gonna open the door for a lot of thought and a lot of questions. So it'll be helpful to know what those things are when we first receive the document. With that, thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mohammed. Commissioner Redding-Lollinger?
Yes, thank you. Just want to make sure I'm seeing this right. In your second to last column here, second from the right, that should say fiscal year 25.
25, correct. Yes.
Okay, just
Yeah.
because we're voting on this, I want to make sure that's
Correct. Yeah.
corrected. It's on all the slides. It says fiscal 24
Yeah.
instead of 25. The other question, when do we get at what point of the year do we get the actuals for the previous fiscal year?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, are you speaking about the audited basic financial statements, essentially our once a year?
Yes.
That is due to MSDE no later than 9/30 each year. So we are in the final phase of it now, and the report will be available as of 9/30.
Great. Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Coy?
Yeah, I want to echo, something Commissioner Mohammed said earlier about the operations team, just to share similar sentiments about the finance team. The work that you all do year in, year out, and the way in which, and I know Chief Doherty, you've highlighted this, the speed of the turnaround requirements for audit are just unbelievable. And the amount of work that you all put in for that deadline of 9:30 is just incredible. And the years and years of clean audits and the best opinions possible from external financial auditors is just to be commended. And also, I do also want to just emphasize this point that as a board, we will be. It's clear to me from the sentiment I hear from my colleagues and from my own sort of feelings are this year we will be engaging more deeply than we have anytime I've been on the board in the budget, finance, understanding that whole process. I do think it's really important as a board that we do so this year, especially as we think forward to the role the board plays in bridging between leadership and administration. And we will ensure that we fully understand the financials and the numbers. And so I look forward to ways that we are going to engage with you all individually, collectively, here in public, in meetings, but just wanting to underscore this point that and thank you in advance for the time and effort that it will require, in addition to doing your day job, to explain and help us understand to make sure that as governors and providing our role in oversight, that we have the full clarity, insight, information that we need, and that as there are areas to provide more clear explanations, that those are that is carried forward, that is something that just becomes part of the practice. So thank you for all of the work that you have done, that you will do, and I just can't speak highly enough about the quality and the professionalism of you all in doing this work and the experience that you bring to it. So thank you.
Any additional comments or questions before we vote? Is there a motion to approve item 8.0 through, 8.03, the FY25 Q4 budget amendment?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy. Is there a second?
Second, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Wallinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott Woodruff.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
Thank you, and I'm in favor. This item passes. Thank you. We'll now move into item, excuse me.
Could I just ask one quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
And maybe because I just came in. Mary Ann Cox, how many years, what number budget is this for you presenting?
Can you do that, Mike? This is a really quiet mic too.
I came to city schools in January 2005,
Okay,
so it's a
so,
long time.
yeah. Yeah, so about 20 plus years, right? So thank you for serving.
Never a dull moment at city schools.
We were just sitting here contemplating that and I was like, this must be Marion's like 20th budget or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
tremendous.
sorry, back
No.
to you, Chair.
No, I appreciate that. That shows a lot of like stability and gives us a great deal of confidence as we continue to move through transition to CEO.
I don't think we need a separate presentation for 8.0.
For 8.04?
Yeah, that was.
Do we just have any questions on 8.04? We may be able to streamline the presentation. Commissioner Mohammed, do you have any questions for 8.04 for the team?
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, we can just do a vote for 8.04, which is the FY25 General Fund Supplemental Appropriations. Is there a motion to approve
So moved.
8.04? I'm sorry.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy. And is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Wallinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott Woodruff.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
Thank you, and I'm in favor. This motion passes. Thank you so much, Marianne, Courtenay, and thank you so much to Chief Doherty. We really appreciate your time this evening. We'll now move to that concludes our consent agenda, so I appreciate that. We'll now move to item excuse me, I might not have the numbers right. 9.01, information discussion. We'll hear from Chief Hike Hubbard and Chief Teresa Jones for a presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, Dr. Santalese. This is Chief Perkins Cohen. I'm Teresa Jones. I serve the district as the Chief Achievement and Accountability Officer, and with me is
Tina Hike Hubbard, Chief Communications Engagement and Enrollment Officer.
As the hour is late and there's a request for a 15-minute presentation, we will be expedient in our review of the information. As a reminder, there is information that is available publicly, so we will hit the highlights and leave time for your questions. So again, we can move to the next slide, please. So this is our stakeholder engagement or feedback update. This is directly aligned to priority 4 as highlighted. Next slide, please. We will, for this evening's presentation, cover multiple stakeholder groups, as you see depicted here. We're fortunate that we do have the results back from the Maryland School Survey, so we'll be able to start with student survey results. Next. Student survey results, we had a 71% participation rate of students in grades 5 through 11 that participated in the state's accountability survey called the Maryland School Survey. We'll now cover the highlights from those results. Next slide. Respondent characteristics, you'll see that the most respondents came from our elementary and middle grades at 84%, which is also why we are super excited. They bypassed the goal that we had of 80%. We still have work to do at the high school level where we had 53% participation. Also just want to acknowledge a multitude of communication strategies were deployed to be able to get the results that you're going to see this evening, and we'll continue to leverage those strategies in our upcoming administration for this upcoming year. Next slide. Maryland School Survey, again, it is a part of the state's accountability system. There are actually 2 respondent groups. We'll first talk about students here. A little bit later, we'll talk about the instructional staff who participate. It represents 7 points on the Maryland report card. These are the topics that are covered within these 4 categories. And then in terms of the ratings, the ratings are based on a scale where you're basically being rated based on the level of favorability. So favorable perceptions, higher numbers are better. And we'll sort of walk through what that means for the student results. Next slide. So good news overall, we were up across all of the various topics that were covered in this survey. So that is great. We're showing here the all student group compilation. There are breakdowns by grade band captured in the appendix. I also want to note that we had the largest increases among our elementary grades, and then that we also had the highest absolute scores in 2025, followed then again by high school and then middle. And then when it comes to areas of opportunity, what we do see is that student-student relationships and safety concerns, as well as bullying, are areas that we can continue to target for improvement. I will note, if you take a look at those scores, you'll see that those are the areas where you see scores that are sort of in the 2s and 3s versus what we see in the other areas where we're above 5, which is an indicator of greater levels of favorable responses. Next slide. In terms of key next steps here, so as always, sharing the results. So we are preparing for a full review of the results as the state shares those results statewide later this fall. We also want to make sure that we're partnering with our administrators to unpack the results and so that we can continue to increase our student engagement, but also more importantly, really focus in on the areas that are represented. These results are broken down at the school level, so schools also have access to their results so that they can unpack those with their school communities. And then, of course, as we think about those targeted areas of improvement, those will continue to be focus areas as those have also been the areas that have come across as opportunity areas in the past. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Hike Hubbard for our spring family survey results.
So good evening again, everybody. So we had a fantastic turnout for our family spring survey. Again, we use Panorama as our partner in this process. And while our goal was 15,000 surveys to be completed, we actually ended up with 12,820, but that was an increase of 22% of families participating in the survey. I want to give a big shout out to our specialists, our CLNs, and our managers. We did a bit of a CLN competition this year to get the survey increased up, and we can see the results of that. And we actually track the data by participation so we can encourage schools to continue to participate in the surveys. Next slide, please. As you see here, the demographics of our family surveys actually match the demographics of our district, which is fantastic. You can see African American at 69%, Hispanic at 21%, Latino, white, et cetera. So we are at least mirroring who we are serving in terms of our respondents for our surveys. And again, we had a broad communication strategy, and I loved all the schools who did the pizza parties and the competitions to get their families to return back those surveys. Next slide, please. Under key findings, we found that 84% of our families responded favorably to the question, does your child's school provide opportunities for you to support your child's learning? It's a fantastic outcome. We're so proud of that outcome. We also see, though, where we can improve, as indicated as I shared a few months ago in our landscape analysis, that some of our families are saying we do not provide information to them in their home language. This mirrors the findings we had before, and so we're going to continue to work on that and make sure we're addressing that concern, as that was one of our lowest response areas for our district. And then just continue to strengthen communication between schools and communities. Next slide, please. If you look here on this slide, I actually like this graph a lot because it shows the increase between 2021 and now, the increase of families participating in our survey and also having favorable family engagement in our process. Since we implemented the dual capacity framework with our team and being post-pandemic, we have 12% increase in families responding favorably to this. 84% is great. It's still not 95 to 100%, so we're still working on that. We're very proud of the growth that we have in this category. So next steps, we have hired, as you all know, our new administrator for multilingual communications to help our business plans, and that work is well underway. We want to strengthen our Title I parent-family engagement activities and support through our schools and through our partnership in our office. And then language access toolkits are also being provided. One next step that's not noted here is that we will be disaggregating the panorama data for individual schools on what their families have told them, so they can utilize that data to implement strategies that will improve family engagement at their school communities. Back to Chief Jones.
Thank you so much. Next slide, please. This next section is going to give information about two surveys that were completed by our instructional staff. The first is for our instructional staff end-of-year survey. Wanting to note that we had over 2,000 participants in this year's survey, so we bypassed the goal, and that was an increase of over 350 respondents versus last year. Next slide, please. This slide gives you just a breakdown in terms of the respondent characteristics. So again, our goal here is to make sure that we are getting voices lifted forward across the spectrum of our educators. The majority of those that responded were in the general educator category. We also saw that in terms of the grade bands that were captured, that the strongest representation was among those in pre-K to 5. And that over approximately half of the respondents had more than 10 years of experience, with about a quarter of them that were in their first 2 years in city schools. So it does allow us to get some perspectives from individuals with a very different type of experience in the district. Again, just want to highlight with the communication strategy, we've continued to see success when it comes to using the professional learning day time as an opportunity for folks to complete the survey. So that did hold true again this year. And then we also use a multitude of communication vehicles in order to increase participation. Next slide, please. In terms of key findings here, first, I just want to note that across the multiple categories that are captured in this survey, we're really honing in on those that are related to professional learning here. So the first thing is we do see some really good results as it relates to responses that have to do with the provision of resources needed to support students, as well as seeing that we have an increase in the percentage of staff that said that professional learning offered, that the professional learning offered actually improved their ability to support students. So that 86% is up 2 percentage points versus last year. When it comes to areas of opportunity, we wanted to note that the differentiated professional learning experience is an area that we want to continue to do some work around, even though we are seeing results here in the 70s. So we had 77% of staff that were saying that the PL that was offered gave them an opportunity for differentiated learning, and that also 76% agreed that there was an opportunity to go deep into their learning. So when we think about, in terms of our open-ended responses, one of the things that really came through was the strong collaboration with colleagues, as well as the improvement in classroom practices, being really some of the highlights from this year's survey responses. Next slide, please. At the board's request, we did add a question this time around for the instructional staff to be similar to what we did for our principals. It is worded a little differently, so let me just acknowledge that up front. So what we have here is a breakdown that really takes a look at the approximate number of hours that an individual is using for a particular task. And so a couple of key takeaways, because there are a lot of bars on this chart. So number one, when it comes to those areas that tend to take the largest share of time, those do align with what we would expect. So when we think about spending the most time on whole group instruction, in turn being followed by small group instruction, the next area when it comes to the critical tasks, activities like grading, working with students individually, as well as individual and collaborative planning time, they tend to fall in that 3 to 5 hours per week range. And then we have a variety of other activities that are essentially competing for the limited time that remains. Those include things like addressing disciplinary needs, the assessment administration activities and analyses, as well as participation in required staff meetings. Typically, those activities can take 1 to 3 hours per week, which of course then adds to the overall workload that our teachers are experiencing. We do see that there are some smaller numbers represented there for other types of activities, things such as cafeteria and recess duty, et cetera. So we'll continue to keep an eye on these things, and knowing that this is the first time that we're capturing this for this particular stakeholder group, we're also going to look forward to comparing the results this year with next year to see whether we're making any progress, particularly in the areas that we are taking note of.
Can I just ask one clarifying question, just to make sure I
Certainly.
understand this chart?
Sure.
So in the question that was asked of the teachers, the educators, they had this whole list of different potential activities, and they would quantify up to 100% of their time where they spent time.
For each of the tasks, they're asked basically how many hours per week are you spending on this task? So if you see the color coding, that bright blue bar, that's an indication that they're spending more than 10 hours on that particular activity. If it's yellow, they're saying it's between 5 to 10 hours. Same thing for the next category of 3 to 5, 1 to 3, up to 1 hour, or if it's not applicable.
And
So
so
they're looking at each one of the tasks and identifying how much time am I spending on that one task independently before they are asked, look at
So
the next one.
each person did that individually, and then what this has done is taken all the respondents and say of everybody that responded.
That's correct.
This is how many people said that was how much time they were spending on.
Right.
that.
So this is giving you the percent. I'll use the first one as an example. What we're seeing here is that 31% are saying that they are spending more than 10 hours providing direct whole group instruction. And then in turn, for each of the bars, that percentage then breaks that down. So across the bars, they would total up to 100%. Thank you for the question. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, educators, our instructional staff do also participate in the state's survey. So this is pivoting a little bit from the end of year survey results we just discussed. So here, one of the things that I want to note is that our participation did decrease slightly. So we went down from 80% last year to 77%. Again, when we take a look at the results across the board in most of the categories, you'll see that there are increases. Even where we don't see an increase, we have sort of no change when it comes to the behavioral and academic supports category. But even where there is a decrease with the staff to student relationships, it is our highest rated favorability area. And that 8.91 is really high when you think about the favorability scale. The other thing that we did want to note, though, is that when we take a look at the questions that are similar between the students and the instructional staff, one of the things that we took note of was around the student to student relationships. So one of the things we do want to acknowledge is that, generally speaking, the educators are rating those relationships more favorably than students are themselves. And we actually do see differences in terms of how students at various grade bands actually rate those relationships. So again, it sort of speaks to an ongoing theme, which is about relationship building, not just between adults and young people, but between young people and their peers. Next slide, please. When we take a look at the next steps, we're really highlighting those that are related to the end of year survey, where I mentioned earlier the professional learning focus of our results sharing tonight. So first and foremost, just acknowledging, like, we want to continue to improve, or I should say include inclusive systemic professional learning opportunities that are differentiated by student and teacher needs, because this theme of differentiation actually has two sides to it. One is about being able to differentiate instruction for young people, but then it's also about the professional learning experience of the adults, and is that differentiated to support their learning. We also take a look at enhancing the quality and the effectiveness of our school-based professional learning, which we know is also one of the key strategies that works well for us. And then as we do so, aligning those professional learning opportunities, resources, and schedules so we can maximize teacher instructional time. So again, we continue to recognize that there's this commodity of time that we will continue to hear about people wanting support around, making sure that we are giving them the time they need for the things that need to be prioritized and trying to minimize the things that take away from their ability to do the things that are most important. As it relates to our next category, because I'm on the theme of instruction, we'll now talk about school leaders and take a look at their end of year survey results. One of the things that I will note is that we did have a bit of a delay in the administration this year, so we didn't quite hit the participation goal that we were looking for. So this sharing of results actually represents roughly 33% of the respondents for school leaders. Next slide, please. When we talk about school leaders, we actually have a multitude of roles represented here. So we broke those into our two categories. So we have principals representing 50%, and then the other 50% is from our assistant principals and resident principals. The other thing you'll see here is that in terms of breakdown of data, you'll see how long they've worked with city schools. The majority of the respondents have worked in the district for more than 10 years. That's kind of similar to what we saw on the instructional side of things with our respondent group. But specifically, how long have you worked in your current role? That is only 1 to 5 years. So it does speak to the fact that we do have, pretty experienced educators that are serving in the district, but they may not have been in the principalship or in their assistant principalship role for as long of a period of time. But we do see we have good representation, even 14% each for that 6 to 10 years and the more than 10 years categories. Again, just want to thank those that supported us getting this out, especially knowing that we had some delays. So we did use a variety of methods there. Unfortunately, we were not able to use the typical end of year checklist and the CLN team communications because of the delayed start for the survey. Next slide. So key findings. So first and foremost, just want to highlight, we're seeing that job satisfaction is actually looking pretty good in city schools. And so when we take a look at the results here, we see that we have 89% of our school leaders saying that they are satisfied with their jobs overall. That is an increase of 8 percentage points versus the prior year. And we're seeing that less than 10% regret becoming a principal. And so one of the reasons that we also included that here is because one of the things we didn't put on the slide, but do want to make note of, is that we found that there was a very small percentage of our school leaders that were feeling like educators are valued in society. So recognizing how they're experiencing their work, and we're still seeing these levels of job satisfaction, is pretty noteworthy. We also appreciate the fact that we have 88% of them saying that they would choose their job again if they could. So some pretty good news on the job satisfaction front. However, when we think about areas of opportunity, as Pizzazza President Carl Perry pointed out this evening, there is this piece around self-care. So we do want to acknowledge that we were seeing that only 45% of school leaders reported that it's actually encouraged in their role. And then other related information for opportunities have to do with the percentage are saying that they agree that they make the most important decisions for their school. And then I also just want to clarify this point here, this 59% of school leaders that feel that parent meetings are successful at their schools. That question actually has to do with parent association and parent meetings. So when you think about the parent organizations and how those meetings are being experienced, which is different from thinking about how they're experiencing their time with parents and meeting with parents, even though we do have some information about that to share as well. Last but not least, we asked the question, what do you believe most affects your school's capacity for quality instruction? And the things that bubbled up are time, support, and professional development. So again, we've seen these continued themes reflected in this year's survey as well. Next slide.
Chief Jones?
Yes.
It's been about a little over 15 minutes, so if you could.
Yep, I'm getting there. I'm wrapping this up. I'm handing it to Tina. All right. So last thing I want to do here is on the time spent on task. Just want to acknowledge we have a couple of different views here. Key highlights here is in terms of areas that are showing up as a concern this year versus what we had before. This first slide shows when we think about planned and unplanned parent or guardian interactions, that's showing up on the side of too much time being spent. We think that that may have a relationship with some of the safety concerns that have bubbled up in other spaces. So I do want to acknowledge that. Next slide. And then also noting in terms of school-based meetings, that's another one that's showing that folks may be feel as though they're spending a little too much time there. Last slide for this one. All right, so here again, next steps to share the results, to create opportunities for change, and to incorporate feedback as we are sharing results across the CLNs and with school leaders. Back to Tina.
The board can indulge me in 2 minutes. I will finish district office staff and non-instructional staff. I don't want to leave them out. Just quickly, we merged these two together to expedite the presentation. The first part is non-instructional staff, but they're at schools. So they are cafeteria workers, custodians at schools, front office workers, et cetera. And then district office staff is everybody in this building, including both our EDs and specialists, but also our custodians in this building as well. Non-instructional staff, next slide, please. You can see the breakdown of who actually participated in the survey, where we see good responses like our food service workers. We work with those groups specifically to attend joint meetings to help them complete the survey and participate. So we know we need to do more active engagement, like with groups like our school police officers, to make sure that they can actually complete the surveys. On the key findings, next slide, you find that 93% of folks have job satisfaction and 83% have also acknowledged that they have supports needed to do their jobs. Where staff retention, 61% felt that they had considered another job in the past. That's something we need to think about, is how we can retain our employees at our schools. And then making sure that staff members or they're reporting that they have a love for city school students that keeps them engaged. I thought was a really endearing note in the survey. Next slide, please. District office staff, you can see here by office, the respondents. We do send out participation trackers as reminders to these folks, and we do regular targeted communications, our district office staff meeting, and the bullet boards in the hallway to get folks to complete those surveys. Next slide, please. As you will see, a good high percentage of job satisfaction, and they strongly agreed with their managers provide the right support and work expectations. Again, staff retention, not that they have left, but that they've considered leaving, is low for this group as well. So we need to think about what we're doing around staff retention. And then one of the concerns that staff had highlighted here was cross-office collaboration and making sure that we as chiefs are working with our teams to make sure we are collaborating and working well together. So that's the note for us to work on. Just quickly on the next slide, we have some bars here. You can see these are in district office and non-instructional staff. It is not meant to be a comparison. We just put them on the same slide because they're very disparate groups of people. But you can see the higher responses here that led to their continued employment, work-life balance, working with relationships with their colleagues and their managers, and employee benefits. And then obviously the factors that I'm considering leaving or going to another organization is the organizational culture, which is still pretty low, and the compensation, which is also pretty low. All right, next steps. We are sharing the results with these surveys, both with school communities and with different district offices, to encourage, data analysis with different teams to understand that data, and again, utilize that data to improve practice. We want to, as we close out, we want to remind you that all of the larger data sets will be posted on our website this evening, along with this presentation. We've gone through the presentation very quickly, but if anybody wants to go deep into our data, it is available on our website. We're going to skip one more slide here because we went out of order by accident. One more slide, please, Mark. Thank you. I want to quickly thank my colleague, Teresa, to co-lead this work with me, the team at OAA, Anya, Chris, and the whole line below that, Brittany and Aaron and all that team really are the glue in making sure these surveys are executed effectively, the design, the analysis of the data. And then below that, you see our work group members. They work with OAA and our team. We meet regularly to make sure we're asking the right questions that make sense for our stakeholder groups, and that we're developing an outreach and connection strategies to increase participation and disaggregate the data to address the concerns of our employees and help them form practice. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to Chris Wan. His email is there. The full reports, as I said, are on our website, and you can see the links there where you can find more information. And with that, I will close and take questions.
Yes, and I just will acknowledge, we do have some of our stakeholder group leads here this evening.
do.
So if you wouldn't mind standing, so their names may be on the slide, but to have them in the room, I just really want to shout them out and thank them. They are here because they also wanted to be available if you have specific questions related to their areas. And so certainly if we don't have time for all questions this evening, if you want to submit those to us, we'd be happy to provide responses in writing.
And many of these folks do this as other duties as assigned. This was not in their job description. It was not in their original work plan. We've asked different offices to assign a person to go along with Teresa and I and the OAA team to design and implement this. So I give them a lot of credit because this actually isn't a primary part of the work that they do every day.
Appreciate the really rich data because it's really helpful insights from a number of different lenses, that helps us to understand the health and wellness of our district as a whole. I'll invite any board colleagues who may have any questions as a whole. Let me just say, I think there's a lot of utility in this as we go through transition. It gives us some really good insights as a board, helps us to understand, as we're working on a profile, a new superintendent, the things that they should be looking for and attuned to. So we appreciate that's everything that's here. I encourage the public to also dig into the data since it will be publicly available for good use, Thank you, team. Thank you so much to our stakeholder leads. And I'll turn it over to our vice chair. Next steps.
Good evening. So I will start closing this out by announcing some upcoming meetings. We'll have the policy committee meeting virtually Tuesday, September 30th from 4 to 5:30. Our next executive board meeting will be Tuesday, October 7th from 3:30 to 5:30 here on the third floor in the conference room. And then we'll have our hybrid public board meeting the same day, October 7th from 5:30 to 7:30. 5:30 to 7:30, guys. You got to speak those things as they are. That's right. All right. Safety and Wholeness Committee meeting will be October the 9th. That will be virtually from 4 to 5:30. And then last but not least, Teaching and Learning will be a virtual meeting as well, Tuesday, October 14th from 3:30 to 5:30. We want to also remind everyone that we are engaging our community around the CEO process. As stated earlier, details about the CEO search community forums are located on the CEO search webpage on Baltimore City Schools website. We also have these nice pamphlets for anyone that want to take one. I will say I participated in the first two engagements and they were very fruitful. So we are looking forward to hearing from our community as we go through this transition process. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that seems like that carried. Everybody have a good evening and be safe on your way home. Thank you.